Hey, how's it going? My name is Jake Farron. I'm a product designer at a tech company, and in this video I want to share 3 books that helped me the most in the workplace. Okay, this first book I can say directly led to me being promoted to a team lead, a design team lead, and this was only 2 years after I started as the design intern at the company. The book is Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. You probably already know who Jocko is, but he was a Navy SEAL for 20 years. Him and Leif Babin wrote this book. They also do business consulting. Each chapter has like a story from combat and application to business, so how it applies and like different stories from the business world as well. I also got Jocko to sign my copy. For Jake, discipline equals freedom. Own it, Jocko. So the things I did from this book that led me to get promoted were two things. He talks about leading in whatever capacity you can right now. In your current role, how can you lead? What things can you do? And then 2, he says to have a plan for what you would do if you were put into a leadership position. For the first one, so I was just like an individual contributor designer, and I organized and led a book club with my design team. It may seem like a small thing to like lead a book club, but it was almost like a preview for my boss to see me in a leadership position, like how I would be in a leadership position. So I'm like organizing and planning the meeting, I'm leading the meeting, I'm talking in front of people, I'm delegating things out. And for the second thing, I actually wrote out a plan of something that I thought needed to change on the team. So I came up with this system that would help people move from junior or mid-level designer to senior designer. So we like defined what is a senior designer. When you felt like you were ready, when you checked off all the boxes of what we defined as a senior designer, then you could put together a portfolio and present to the senior designers on the team and product managers and the head of product and kind of make a case for yourself. Because what people were doing, the only way to really get a raise or to get promoted to senior designer was to go somewhere else, to put together a portfolio and go and present yourself at a different company. So I thought, why don't we just give people an opportunity to do that here? So I had my plan all written out for how this would work. And I talked to my boss about it all the time, any one-on-one, any time that I had to like sit down with him. So when the time came that the company needed a new team lead, I was like the obvious choice because I was already leading this book club. I had all these plans and things that I wanted to improve. So eventually I was promoted to this team lead position. I got a bump in salary, but it was directly from the stuff that Jocko suggests in this book. So there's a lot about leadership in the book, but the main idea is extreme ownership.
Take ownership. Take extreme ownership. Don't make excuses. Don't blame any other person or any other thing. Take ownership of your mistakes. Take ownership of your shortfalls. Take ownership of your problems. And then take ownership of the solutions that will get those problems solved.
It's counterintuitive because if something goes wrong, if you spent months working on some project and then it's a complete failure, you kind of want to not get in trouble. You want to point the finger. We naturally want to like push the blame onto others. But if you can identify what the problem really was, why this project failed, and take ownership of it, like explain how it was your fault that this happened, and then committing to fix the problem next time around, your bosses and your colleagues are only going to trust you more next time. So it's a cool book, and it's helped me realize that your fate is in your own hands. Your success or your failure in a company really does all depend on you. You decide how hard you're gonna work, you decide how much you're gonna participate, you decide how good you are at your craft. So definitely check out Extreme Ownership if you haven't already. His podcast is also really good, and he's been on Joe Rogan a bunch of times, so you can also just look that up. The next book is How Google Works, and this book is okay. Honestly, it's a little tech heavy. So what I really want to recommend here is a talk given by Jonathan Rosenberg. It's from 2010. It's Jonathan Rosenberg Rules to Success is what it's called. A lot of the lessons from this talk are what made it into the book. Jonathan Rosenberg is the former head of product at Google. So he oversaw all the consumer apps like Search, Gmail, Chrome, Android, all of these like mega successful products. And he was at the company from 2002 to 2011. So read the book if you're in like the tech scene, because it's very specific about like how a company should work. But this talk I think applies to everyone. It's just like dense business knowledge.
Jonathan's rules from the bestseller he has yet to write. Communication. 9 rules. Communication number 1. Over-communicate in all ways, all the time. There is no such thing as too much communication. When you think you've communicated something too much, you're probably just beginning to get through. You have to have all hands meetings, send regular emails, run office hours, run off sites.
I used to listen to this talk like on repeat as a young designer. I think it gave me a glimpse into what the VPs and the executives were thinking about. So as a young designer, like brand new in the corporate world, I would be in these meetings with like the head of product and the VP of the company. And because of this talk, I felt like I had meaningful things to say. I felt like I could engage with them, give suggestions, ask questions. And because of that, they ended up really liking me, which led to me getting raises, getting special assignments at the company. Okay, on to to the next book. A lot of us are too passive or too agreeable in the workplace. Like we've been taught our whole lives to be nice, to be polite. So we feel bad asking for more money or potentially stepping on someone's toes or taking credit for something that we did. But at work, this kind of passive attitude doesn't get you very far. So this next book helped me understand how people in power think and how they got to be in positions of power. If you were to read this book and adopt everything that it says into your regular life, you would probably turn into a real dick. But I do think that there are good lessons and strategies that are going to benefit you in the right settings, or at the very least, you'll be able to notice and resist these things when you see other people trying this stuff.
You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. This book originally came out in 1998. Supposedly it's the most requested book in prisons, and I actually looked that up to see if it was true, and I found that this book is banned in prisons in the state of Utah, which is where I live. So that's something. I first heard about this book from Ryan Holiday. He wrote Ego is the Enemy and Obstacle is the Way, a bunch of other good stuff. And he actually apprenticed under Robert Greene as a young writer. So there's actually some great leadership principles in here. And if you think about it, leadership is kind of a form of manipulation because you're trying to get someone to do something.
Are we the baddies?
So it's not that you have to be a jerk or like try to control people or manipulate them into doing what you want. But if the workplace is just this big game, then these are strategies you can use in playing that game. And I think there's a lot here you can do in a way that's not evil. It just is maybe plays more on human emotion. Do it in a way that's going to benefit you more.
If you are a bad guy, but this does not mean you're a bad guy.
I don't know. It's a message that doesn't like sit well with me, but like in a corporate setting, everyone really is there for themselves. You know, like the company will try to create this cult-like following, which is one of these, one of the rules, but they try to create this like feeling of team, feeling of being, you know, part of something bigger. But in the end, everyone is there for a paycheck. Everyone is there kind of looking out for themselves. If you're not, you kind of get trampled all over, which goes back to what I was saying about being too polite or being too nice, and then someone else takes the opportunities from you. So I'll read through a couple of these just to give you an idea of like the feel of the book. Law number 1, never outshine the master. Always make those above you feel comfortably superior. In your desire to please or impress them, do not go too far in displaying your talents, or you might accomplish the opposite, inspire fear and insecurity. Make your master appear more brilliant than they are, and you will attain the heights of power. Law number 4, always say less than necessary. When you're trying to impress people with words, the more you say, the more common you appear and the less in control. I've heard investors give this advice when talking to founders about pitching their startup, that if you say a lot, if you kind of ramble on, you're giving the investor more things to not like about you and about your project. You almost want to like leave them guessing. So it says, even if you're saying something banal, it will seem original if you make it vague, open-ended, and sphinx-like. Powerful people impress and intimidate by saying less. The more you say, the more likely you are to say something foolish. Law number 6, court attention at all cost. Everything is judged by its appearance. What is unseen counts for nothing. And this kind of goes with law number 37, which is create compelling spectacles. Striking imagery and grand symbolic gestures create the aura of power. Everyone responds to them. As a designer, we do user interviews a lot. So this is where we'll sit and watch people use the website. We'll give them certain tasks, see if they're able to complete the tasks, see where they get hung up on the site in order to make it better. All the user testing that I do is online and no one really sees me doing it, but I was totally fine with that because I'm not doing it to impress anyone. I'm just doing it to make our product better. Like that's what my job is to design a great product that's easier to use. So I didn't really care. But what happens when I go to ask for a raise or a promotion? These people haven't seen any of the work I've done. They don't know how good I am at what I do. So it really all comes back to like what they've seen, what their perception is of you. So I can like do my best to prove that my work is good. But I was thinking of that whole user experience thing and like how different I would be perceived if instead of just doing all my user testing online where no one ever sees, what if I brought users into the office, put a bright red like visitor name tag lanyard around their necks, and walked them all around the building, kind of showing them around, making sure all the VPs saw me, making sure my design lead saw me. That's almost creating a spectacle. It's being seen. And then do the same user research and, you know, gather the actual work is the same, but how it's perceived and how I'm perceived is completely different. So I think there's something, I've never actually done that, but I think there's something to the idea of like purposefully being seen doing things, which is like totally counterintuitive to me. I'm not like one to go and seek attention or to, you know, make sure people see me doing. In my mind, I'm doing my job, which is to make the website better. But then it just comes back to bite me when people don't know how good I am at what I do because I haven't been showing them this whole time. Law number 7, get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. All you product managers out there, I see you. I see what you're doing. Law number 11, learn to keep people dependent on you. To maintain your independence, you must always be needed and wanted. The more you are relied on, the more freedom you have. Law 16, use absence to create respect and honor. Law 30, make your accomplishments seem effortless. Your actions must seem natural and executed with ease. All the toil and practice that goes into them and all the clever tricks must be concealed. When you act effortlessly. Law number 38, think as you like, but behave like others. This one's especially relevant in a tech company when politics are brought up a lot. And if I go and, run my mouth talking about politics and disagreeing with everyone and get into big arguments about politics, then people aren't going to like me. And at a company, you need people to like you. It doesn't serve you in any way to get into a big argument with someone, especially someone that, you report to or you work with all the time. You're not going to change their mind. There's really no positive thing to come from it. So think however you want, hold whatever beliefs you want, but behave like others. I mean, you don't have to go around lying to people. Law number 45, preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once. I've seen so many people come in, so many product managers or department leads, they come in with all these great ideas of what they're going to change, and everyone resists it. Nobody wants it. Preach the need for change. You can talk about change all you want, but be very slow to make those changes or people are going to resist it and you're going to be pushed out. It's an interesting book. I would recommend giving it a read. I actually really enjoyed his 33 Laws of War as well. I like that kind of stuff. Like the Jocko podcast, he reviews a lot of books like Sun Tzu and a lot of these great war books. So I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned in that. But those are my book recommendations. So I guess what I'm recommending is Extreme Ownership. Read the book, but definitely check out the podcast and look at Jocko's other books. Get on the Jocko train, I think is what I'm saying. How Google Works. Just go listen to that talk that I recommended. I'll link it down below in the description. The book is good if you're in the tech industry, but I definitely wouldn't recommend it to everyone. But this talk, I would recommend to everyone. And then the 48 Laws of Power, I would say definitely pick it up if you are someone that's more passive, someone that's afraid to ask for things at work. I'd be super interested to know what books have impacted you the most in terms of business or at work, navigating the corporate world. What books have helped you the most? Comment below, and I appreciate you watching. Subscribe if you're not already, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.